It's my great honor to it's my great honor to moderate this important webinar with our WHO colleague, Dr. Salam Gay, who is representing AFRO, the Regional Managing Director for WHO. So thank you, colleagues from the member states. Thank you, representative from partners, implementing entity of the pandemic fund. Thank you, representatives from the regional economic communities. Really thank you, colleagues, representative from the African Union specialized institutions. We have been part of this process over the past months. I think the principals of Africa CDC and WHO engage with your respective leadership about 3 months ago, since the process of the pandemic fund round 2 started. I think we have reached a point where we would like in this webinar to have a chance to further consolidate the co-creation process of what this Common Africa approach is and would be. So I would like to, at this point, just on the next slide as a way of introduction. Next slide, please. Next slide. I think we no need to go too much into the agenda. Next. Yes, as a way of introduction to really set further the context. We all know, colleagues who are participant to this call are well aware that the Pandemic Fund has launched its second call for proposal last December. We have a tight deadline of May 17th. And from Africa CDC and WHO, as part of the Joint Emergency Action Plan, which was launched last year, really want to leverage our joint commitment to bring quality submissions from the continent. What we want to do differently this time is to have more stronger multi-country and regional entity proposal from the continent. And the ambition of this effort is to have a sizable part of the current envelope of the pandemic fund, the $500 million supporting African member states where the needs are the highest. So as part of this process, you are well aware that we conducted recently a consultation with member states, as well as regional economic communities and the AU specialized institutions to better inform how we will organize ourselves around multi-country proposals, to better inform how we will build synergistic regional entity proposal to complement the efforts that is going on at country level through country-specific proposals. So the aim of this call is to make sure that as stakeholders, we are well briefed about the process so far. I think in this call, we have new stakeholders who may have not been part of the process so far. Some implementing entities are joining the call or the process. We have civil society organization in the call, and really want this important call to be a moment where we share information. We want this call to be an opportunity also to hear more about the country perspective on the survey findings. We have attempted to structure the grouping for multi-country proposals. The caveat here is that it's not a perfect grouping. That's why we want to open it for discussion. And we have also highlighted potential proposal tracks where countries could come together. So at the end of this call, we want to have a common approach for the co-creation, to have a common approach towards supporting member states in coming together with multi-country proposals, as well as regional economic communities and AU specialized institutions in coming together with strong regional entity proposals. So the next slide will just highlight the agenda of this call. I'm not going to dwell into that. The next. So the survey methodology is just for colleagues who may have not been part of the process so far. We started, in February with the engagement with member state as well as EU specialized institution. I think what I really want to emphasize here on is that this survey that we are going to share the results about was organized pretty late of February. We had a chance to discuss internally as part of the GIF Secretariat to better structure how the findings could be meaningful for the member state and partners today. So in the next couple of slides, Dr. Salam is going to share with you more about what came out of the multi-country analysis. And I'll come back for the rest. Over to you, Dr. Salam.
Thank you very much, Landry. I have the honor here just to present the work of a whole team that did a very thorough job to see what are the interests of countries and also what are the interests of among countries to work together. Next, please. As you can see, multi-country proposal is needed because it is in order to share challenge among countries and see how they can work together. It is countries that are geographically close, culturally close, or even countries that have some similar way of doing business. It is useful always to work together for complementarity, but also in order to cheerlead each other and learn from the others. The impact of having multi-country proposal and multi-country program or project is that when an impact happens, it is not only for a group of population, but the population that is targeted is a lot higher. It may be good also to identify here that it will not be one project that all the countries will be targeted. It will be similar project going on in several countries. So if we do the multi-country proposal and it is successful, each country will have their own project of the multi-country proposal and will be having control over that project in terms of who they're going to be working with, which is going to be their partner into that process. Next, please. We sent the survey to all the 54 member states of the African Union in Africa, and we received 36 responses. In general, it is countries that are on the WHO regional office of AFRO that are the 47 countries. Unfortunately, the other countries of the northern part of Africa did not respond. Among those countries, 24 are interested on working on a multi-country proposal. But it is not the 24 only, because later on there is 4 countries that are in the process also of joining because they didn't understand the question, or when we follow up, they understood that it was on their interest. So we likely will have 28 countries that are on the departure in order to work for a multi-country proposals. 12 countries are not interested in multi-country proposal. Most of those countries are French-speaking countries. We thought that our survey was not well structured in the French part, but when we follow up also, we realized that they confirm they are not interested. Next, please. So from those 24 countries, soon to be 28, we reviewed the list of high interest in thematic area, because when we send them, we gave them an opportunity to express also if they are highly, moderate, or low interest into the multi-country thematic we propose them. We review the qualitative response. We identify also the emergency preparedness and response challenges they may encounter, and we try to put those in priority and propose some grouping. The proposal of grouping sometimes also needed some conversation with people in country in order to ask them to clarify in terms of which country they say they want to work with. Is it limitative, or is it just they are expressing their willingness or their comfort working with those countries? Next, please. I just presented this. It is a really very short chart. There's a lot of information into this slide, but you will have an opportunity to open it yourself and see. But you're going to see on your left, it is the countries, and on top, it is the topic. Here, we should know that most of the topics are disaggregated into sub-interests in order to see and comprehend better what the countries are interested on. Next, please. Here is some proposal of countries when we ask them which country you want to work with. You see, for example, South Sudan would say DRC, Central African Republic, and Uganda. And also they express that they are member of East African Community. You would take, for example, the Gambia. They say that they would love to work with Senegal and Guinea-Bissau. And Tanzania expressed the need to work with their neighboring country. And all this we took into account those considerations when we asked to the countries. Next, please. For the collaboration opportunity, which while most countries will complete the survey, flag a gap across all three priority area, that was as determined by the Secretariat of Pandemic Fund. And also countries also express some challenges like climate changes, geographical future, limited funding, and have expressed also the countries they want to collaborate in terms of geography, in terms of similarity, in terms of even good relationship, bilateral relationship. That's where that was determining which country they wanted to work with. Next, please. So this is a suggestion only of grouping, and it is a work in progress, dynamic. We will ask to the countries, to partners, to see how to adjust based on what we already know. You see, it is 4 multi-country proposals we are suggesting here. One is about Lusophone and country. We call it Lusophone, but even Spanish-speaking countries are included. It is the countries that are kind of lonely in Africa because of their language they are using as the official language. And those countries, usually when they have also intervention, it is difficult to find technical assistance who can speak the language. Here is Guinea-Bissau, Angola, Sao Tome and Principe, and Cabo Verde. And the second is a group of countries from Southern and East Africa, and that are mostly members of the SADC country. The third part is the country of Eastern Africa that have a lot of similarity. They are big country, and all of them are over 50 million inhabitants or a little bit close to it. And also there are countries that are very developed on terms of public health and epidemiology. They have a lot of things they learn a lot from experience, and they are also geographically linked and are close to conflicts, and sometimes very serious and long-lasting conflicts. The fourth one is the West African country, geographically linked, close to conflict also. And also they are around the hub of WHO in Senegal, where almost all of them, you can access to them by road. And it has some kind of geographic facility here. Next, please. So here is the topic that we propose for each of those group of countries. You will see that the thematic, as we propose it, we went a little bit beyond this thematic, because once we receive the proposal of the countries, we say that it may not be in the advantage to just limit a group to one thematic. So we kind of combine the thematic for each group. And that combination may have a development of one thematic that is the focus one, and other ancillary thematic. So you see, it is strengthening epidemiologic alliance and joint workforce capacity in Lusophone African nation for robust pandemic preparedness and response. You would see strengthening surveillance and workforce response in Southern Africa, where also we talk about the climate change. And the third one, strengthening cross-border surveillance and emergency workforce in East Africa, with that country that we were talking about. And the last, enhancing health security in conflict-impacted Western and Central African sub-region. Next, please. So here is just to explain a little bit why we do this. This group I already started explaining. When we have emergency in Equatorial Guinea, for example, it is a whole process to have somebody who speaks Spanish. And sometimes we would ask even outside of Africa to have people come and intervene. So we try really to build on that. And also those countries have a lot in common. And those who know a little bit the history of Africa, they even went to independence in a civil war together. Even though they were very far away, Mozambique, Cabo Verde, Guinea-Bissau, or Angola, all of them had one army. And it happened that some family was going from one country to another in order to fight and get back their independence. And after they got those independence, also they continued a good collaboration. And we do believe that we have there something to build on in order to support them and have here the language barrier and have a strong emergency response capacity. Next, please. This is the countries that are into the southern and eastern part of Africa. And recently, there is really a lot of impact of climate change where we're going to have some rain, some storm that create some flooding and cholera. A lot of climate change related outbreak and infectious diseases. They have also in common some particularity in terms of surveillance. They have a strong clinical care, and also some of them shared the burden of HIV at its beginning, that have developed a lot their laboratory system, that have developed also their clinical care. And some countries are very engaged and funding a lot their activities like Namibia and Botswana. And we try also to build on that and work into having a multi-country proposal based on their suggestion. So it's going to be integrating new tools into routine surveillance, genomic and environmental surveillance in seroprevalence laboratory network. We will continue supporting them for the IDSR, but IDSR will be improved by genomic surveillance, maybe improved also by environmental surveillance, and also network for laboratory seroprevalence. Next, please. This is collaborating cross-border disease surveillance. A little bit closer, but it is the cross-border here that we suggest that they focus. And also, each of those countries is highly developed in at least one part of public health. And we want those countries not only to take advantage of this fund, but also to share their capacity. Uganda has such a capacity, for example, in hemorrhagic fever and some disease response and epidemiology, and it may be good that they use it for other African countries. You go to Kenya also, there is a lot of laboratory experience and landmark publication in Kenya, and it may be good also to use that advantage for the other countries. Next, please. The last one is the West Africa. And also, you know that Sahel is the zone where we have a lot of risk in terms of security. And also, there is some countries that are on the middle of that crisis, but many of the countries in West Africa can suffer from the spillover of the crisis. Beyond Mali, Niger, and Burkina, there's also many other countries that have some risk. The objective here is to work with them using all the tools that are possible, but also to have where the crisis is, have a way at least to detect what's happening there and potentially respond. Where the countries that are hosting crisis to develop their integrated disease surveillance, the countries that are bordering countries that are hosting crisis to make sure that the cross-border surveillance is well done and any result will be followed by decision and responses before outbreaks become pandemics. Next, I think it is the last one. And I will pass the floor to my colleague from Africa CDC to present what was the result for the regional economic community and the special institution. Over to you, Landry.
Thank you, Dr. Salam. Thank you, colleagues who have started to share their comments on the chat box. We welcome those who join us after the beginning of this important webinar. As mentioned earlier, this is the opportunity to learn together about what came up from the survey, which was done with member states, regional economic community, and African Union specialized institutions. It's going to be open for discussion after this segment that I'm going to present. This segment is about the information that came up from regional economic communities. We have 8 on the continent, and they were consulted to express their interest and indicate the areas where they would like to put together a proposal to the pandemic fund. We also approached African Union specialized institutions, and some of them have expressed interest in putting together a bid for the pandemic fund. The purpose of this segment is really to try and build up synergy between what the multi-country proposal and Dr. Salam presented, the 4 thematic areas, and how we think about the synergies with the RECs and specialized institutions. Next slide. So 5 RECs and AU specialized institutions responded to the survey. And we have Africa CDC, IBA, the Economic Community of Central African States, and the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, COMESA. Next. So this slide, the aim really here is to indicate the areas where each of the RECs or each of the AU specialized institution would like to focus their regional entity proposals. And you can see that definitely out of the 8 thematic issues that in the GIP Secretariat we have identified as common critical issues for the continent to be prioritized for the pandemic fund, some of our AU specialized institutions and RECs have clearly indicated where they would like their proposal to focus on. And then the critical point here is how the RECs will add value to the multi-country proposal within their region, or how the AU specialized institution will further strengthen cross-country or regional systems to meet the needs of many countries. Next. So on this point, we would like to open the discussion. Next slide. Yes, I think the key points, I think there are a few key points. Really want to open the discussion. We already started seeing comments on the chat about countries further expressing the interest in joining the multi-country proposal, the thematic proposal proposed for multi-country proposals. We really want to hear from RECs as well as AU specialized institutions about their plans. It's going to be important to further clarify the type of support needed from the GIP Secretariat, Africa CDC, WHO, AFRO, and EMRO. And from EMRO, I just want to indicate that we have our colleague from EMRO in the call, Dr. Camille. And Dr. Camille, if you would like to just say hi when you have a chance during the question and answer segment. But AFRO and EMRO with Africa CDC as part of the GIP are really much available to provide the support to the multi-country and the regional entity proposals, as well as complementing the work that's already going on at country level for the country-specific proposal. So before we move into the next step, we wanted to make a pause here and open the discussion first. Thank you, colleagues. Should we start with questions that we receive in the chat box? Do we have some hands up already? So in the chat box, Dr. Salam, we have one question from Algeria and one question from Burundi. Do you want to take them first?
Merci beaucoup. Je voulais répondre à ces 2 questions en attendant que les gens se préparent pour leurs propres questions. Le premier, merci pour l'Algérie. Nous avons noté l'Algérie est sur la liste des pays qui ont répondu. Mais à notre compréhension, l'Algérie a répondu qu'ils vont faire une proposition nationale. Et nous sommes prêts à supporter l'Algérie sur une proposition nationale. Il suffit de prendre contact avec le bureau pays de l'OMS qui va le passer au GIP avec Africa CDC et l'OMS. Et nous allons appuyer les appuis nécessaires. C'est la stratégie qu'on a fait pour l'ensemble de tous les pays. Si les pays font une proposition nationale, nous allons les supporter à travers leur bureau pays de l'OMS qui prend contact seulement, mais le support va venir d'Africa CDC et de l'OMS. Pour le Burundi, on n'avait pas noté cette réponse. Donc, nos collègues vont prendre contact avec vous pour vérifier et intégrer la réponse de Burundi sur l'ensemble, sur les pays qui voudraient participer. Et je crois que pour le moment, c'est les deux questions qu'on avait. Merci.
Nous avons une question venant du Congo.
Ah oui, merci.
Congo.
Oui, nous avons une question du Congo qui parle pour les pays qui n'ont pas de conflit. En fait, le Congo a l'avantage d'être un pays très riche sur le plan épidémiologique et aussi sur le plan, donc, la surveillance et toutes les propositions qu'on a faites s'appliquent au Congo. Pour la crise aussi, ce n'est pas les pays qui ont de la crise seulement qui ont intérêt à travailler dedans, mais aussi, même si vous avez un pays où il y a de la crise et qui est frontalier à votre pays, je pense que ce serait bien parce qu'il y aura des interventions au niveau des frontières pour aider à détecter les possibles problèmes qui pourraient venir des conflits, des épidémies qui sont nées dans des zones de conflit et qui peuvent passer dans un pays calme. Et on sait que s'il n'y a pas un développement et des surveillances particulières, ceci peut arriver. C'est pourquoi Congo a été ajouté à cela, mais c'est toutes les discussions et ça peut se changer et aller dans d'autres groupes thématiques aussi. Merci.
Alors, je vois des mains. I would like to, at this point, to call colleagues who have raised their hands. Let me start with our dear Ashalo and then Mohammed.
Many thanks, Dr. Landry and Dr. Salam. Thank you so much for coming up with the grouping and thematic area. Thank you so much for that. My name is Aschalo. I'm from WHO Country Office, the former DDG for Ethiopian Public Health Institute. So I'm really happy to see the grouping. I also responded for the survey, and I thought the feedback already taken. I'm really happy to see that, especially when we discuss about the multi-country, we also think about the implementation and the coordination afterward, because the coordination and implementation is very critical. So consider geographic proximity and the current situation is very important. And again, considering the country capacities to share experience and to support beyond these funding issues to create a mutual interest and a mutual contribution between countries is very helpful. So for this, we are, as from Ethiopian side, we are very happy to collaborate and to work with the Eastern African countries, with the team of Kenya, Uganda, and the remaining 5, actually. I don't want to take more time on the listing. So we are happy with those, and also I'm so happy with the thematic areas. But I want to comment on the thematic areas. It is the surveillance and emergency workforce are very critical, especially the cross-border issues. But it is good to reframe it as a One Health approach, because surveillance for One Health, as well as the emergency workforce for One Health. So this can give us an opportunity to engage more sectors, especially from animal health, and also the other stakeholders, including in One Health approach. That is because we learned this from our previous country call. We do the same for a single country proposal. We win, as you know it, and we are implementing now the multi-sectoral with a multi-sector approach. So it is also good to make One Health surveillance, a cross-border surveillance, and One Health emergency workforce development. So we can rename it or we can reframe it later on. The other point I want to raise here is I think now we don't have enough time to organize a call or a meeting if we didn't push more, because we have only 1 month and some days. So we need to work closely to develop and finalize this proposal and also to win, because the entire coordination, the effort is to bring more resource to Africa and also to have more share from the globe. So for this, I think the time is very sensitive. So I think I'm also expecting at the end of this meeting as an action point, the deadline and also the approach, how can we bring those countries together and also start on thematizing and also fulfilling those documents as well. And one more question is, we are there are partners are requesting us special international partners, and there are some. And also I heard about from my brother, Dr. Landa, about one of the international NGO or NGOs are in this call. So how can we engage the partners? Because I know Pandemic Fund Secretariat are also looking to engage delivery partners and local NGOs for the proposal writing as well as for the implementation as well. So we need to also hear from you about the mechanism, because we don't have enough time to take more things. So we need to put a specific criteria and also making a decision. Thank you so much once again.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Shalo. Let us hear from Dr. Mohammed, and then we have GGSP. Please come after Dr. Mohammed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lande, and also allow me to recognize Dr. Salam, the director of AFRO from WHO. Thank you for connecting us. My intervention will be from the FAO perspective, and maybe I know, I mean, the FAO is known, but very quickly giving an overview of how FAO is engaged with the Pandemic Fund. We have in the region, the regional office, which I am sitting, and I provide the regional coordination from the FAO side to this Pandemic Fund. And we have focal points for each of 4 sub-regional offices, which correlate with the IGAD, the SADC, ECAS, and ECOWAS. And then we also have 2 what we call the Emergency Center for Transboundary Animal Disease, and that is delivered from 2 offices, which are, one is the Eastern and Central and Western Africa, and another one is Eastern and Southern Africa. And then we have country offices in every office. So last year, we have been designated by the FAO leadership, and then we are also very strongly connected with the FAO headquarters. Now, having said that, I just want to echo what Dr. Asalo has said. I mean, last year, I also had a chance to review many of the feedbacks that we received, and also the scoring of those projects which were submitted. So this One Health is one of the vital for the success that we have noticed there. So FAO stand is that we are happy to go with both the multi-country and with the regional entity. And as you can see, our entry point is with the region. It is the AUI bar, although we also work with the Africa CDC in the One Health platform, and of course with the agri-food system. I mean, the food safety and anything that comes there. So FAO stand, we support this exercise and we congratulate the exercise that has already been done.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Can you be brief?
Yeah, and I'll be very brief just to point. One is about the group 3.
Yes.
I think the countries are too many. Because this is a practical issue will come when we prepare the project. I mean, they're handling 8 countries in one group, going through all the JEE and PBS and compiling together. So, and the same with the Western Africa. So all I would like to say here that, I mean, they have shared the common many features, but still we may need to divide them, which will help us working on the practical ground. The last point before I leave, last year we developed a kind of a review group, including the implementing entity organization, and that was found very effective to improve the quality of projects by cross-sectoral, multi-sectoral review. Thank you so much for giving me the time.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. Definitely, maybe at this point, before giving the floor to other colleagues for the intervention, I just want to welcome the suggestion to strengthen the One Health narrative in the thematic for multi-country proposal, and this is also a point which will be discussed with partners and entities working on the regional proposals. And the second point I also want to comment, I think the process that FAO has been embarked on since the first round, I think this is a process that is welcomed, and it's also encouraged from the Africa CDC leadership and WHO to have more support from implementing entities at the stage of proposal development. We want to see more multi-country and regional successful proposal from Africa for on round 2. And this is the purpose of us coming together for the second round as part of the Common Africa approach. I took note of the suggestion to further revisit the grouping, where we seem to have too many countries. So this is a point that Dr. Salam also mentioned. It's a proposal for discussion, and definitely we look forward to see and to hear more from colleagues on the call. I can see that Dr. Nyi and Dr. Richard would like to come in. Dr. Nyi and then Dr. Richard.
Allô, vous m'entendez?
On vous entend très bien.
Vous m'entendez?
Oui, Dr. Nyi, on vous entend.
Ah, merci beaucoup. Merci. Je suis le docteur Barnabé Nying, le directeur général de la santé publique au ministère de la Santé et de l'Action sociale du Sénégal. Merci pour l'organisation de cette réunion. Ces opportunités de concertation entre pays sont très importantes pour nous. Je pense que quelque part, elles avaient même un peu manqué lors du premier appel à candidature. Donc, merci à tous les initiateurs. J'ai une observation qui peut être aussi comprise comme une question. C'est à propos de notre motivation à contribuer dans une soumission interpays. Pour le moment, la Gambie et la Guinée-Bissau ont été clairement identifiées, mais au titre des enjeux de la collaboration pour la lutte contre la transmission transfrontalière des maladies, nous avons d'autres pays avec lesquels nous sommes frontaliers, la Guinée, le Mali et la Mauritanie. C'est juste pour vérifier au cours de cette rencontre, même s'il y a des critères, est-ce que le nombre de pays pouvant soumettre ensemble, est-ce que ce nombre est limité? Auquel cas, quel est le nombre maximum que nous pourrions atteindre? Si le nombre n'est pas limité, c'est donc affirmer la disponibilité du Sénégal, en tout cas à travailler avec tous les pays avec lesquels nous sommes frontaliers, pour être sûr qu'en termes de maillage, donc toutes les frontières bénéficieront de cette collaboration interpays pour une meilleure surveillance et pour une meilleure sécurité sanitaire. Je m'excuse parce que je suis dans une autre réunion, mais j'ai 3 collaborateurs qui sont dans la réunion et qui prendront mes questions. Il s'agit du docteur Dieye, qui est le directeur du Centre des opérations d'urgence sanitaire du Sénégal, du professeur Aïda Karouté, qui est le responsable du bureau suivi-évaluation du point focal national RSI du Sénégal, et du docteur Madiba, qui est du bureau pays OMS. Merci encore à tout le monde et bonne suite de la réunion.
Merci, Dr. Ning. Merci beaucoup et bienvenue à vos collègues qui vont rester avec nous. Dr. Richard?
OK, merci beaucoup. Moi, c'est Dr. Richard Fortine. Je suis au bureau de l'OMS en République démocratique du Congo. Nous travaillons...
Beaucoup de Richard. Hein?
Ah,
Oh,
sorry. OK,
sorry. Can we give the floor first to Dr. Richard Mihigo? His hand was up. And then Dr. Richard Fortine, you can come next. Thank you. Apologies for that.
Thank you, Dr. Landry. Really, thank you, first of all, for the invitation extended to Gavi. Really a very impressive work. Thanks, Dr. Salam, for the summary. Really excited to see the progress that has been made in supporting countries in this regard. Really well done. Just a few reflections. I think Gavi is an implementing entity for the Pandemic Fund. And 2 weeks ago, on 29th of February, we had a meeting in Lomé on the sideline of a regional consultation that we conducted for the Gavi 6.0, which is our next strategic plan for 2026-2030. And we had a partners meeting to discuss the vaccine partnership in an era of outbreaks, epidemics, and pandemics, and trying to understand what could potentially be the interest of some of the countries to go into that direction. So we are very much excited to see the progress that has been made by Africa CDC and WHO. And we would like here as an entity, implementing entity for the Pandemic Fund, here offer our support and collaboration potentially with you in trying to support countries. We are very much interested in some areas where there could be a mutual synergy in terms of the grouping, which is really perfect that you have highlighted. Our interest lies more on the 4 major areas. The area around diagnostics, laboratory capacities, surveillance system, and data for decision-making, and health workforce capacity. So these are very important topics that I've seen can fit into some of the groupings that has been highlighted. So we are more than happy to take this conversation offline, of course, and then to see how we can mutualize our efforts and support countries during this second wave of application. So once again, congratulations for the progress made, and thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Dr. Richard. Before going to Mary, my dear sister Mary, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Fortine, Richard Fortine.
OK, merci beaucoup. Je suis Dr. Richard Fortine. Je suis au bureau pays de l'OMS en République démocratique du Congo. Le pays a opté pour un projet national et compte tenu d'un certain nombre d'éléments, notamment c'est un pays qui est très grand, qui a 9 voisins. C'est un pays qui fait face à plusieurs épidémies. Et la discussion qu'on avait, c'était de voir est-ce que le pays aurait plus de chances à avoir une proposition nationale ou plutôt à avoir une proposition multi-pays. Au bout de cette discussion, ils ont opté pour une proposition pays. C'est difficile de savoir quelle est la meilleure option. Mais nous pensons toujours que avec le soutien du bureau régional, on peut encore davantage creuser et voir qu'est-ce qui peut donner plus de chances au pays d'être sélectionné pour ce deuxième round du Pandemic Fund. Donc, peut-être on n'aura pas la solution ici, mais on a vraiment besoin de ces orientations. On compte beaucoup sur ce deuxième round. Au premier round, ça ne s'est pas très bien passé. On compte vraiment beaucoup sur ce deuxième round. Et là, on a vraiment besoin de l'accompagnement du bureau régional et éventuellement d'autres personnes qui peuvent nous aider à mieux orienter notre projet. Je ne vais pas rentrer dans tout le contenu du projet, mais vraiment, c'est demander est-ce qu'un projet multi-pays a plus de chances? Est-ce qu'un projet pays a plus de chances? Je ne sais pas qu'est-ce qu'on peut dire à ce stade des discussions.
Merci, Dr. Foti. On reviendra sur vos questions après avoir écouté Mary. Mary, over to you, and then we'll open the discussion with Dr. Salam.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Landry, for convening this meeting. So I'd just like to get some clarification in relation to the regional proposals. And speaking from AU IBA perspective as a specialized institution. One of the key things that is highlighted for discussion is for the specialized institutions or RECs to share needs requirements. So are we sharing needs requirements with Africa CDC, or are we sharing our needs requirements with the countries that we have already clustered in the various thematic areas? So do we reach out to the member states and request them to join the regional proposal, or how is this going to be taken into tandem? I think there needs to be some clarity so that the regional economic communities and the specialized institutions that have come together, for example, in our situation, where we have Africa, AU IBA, AU PANVAC, AU NEPAD, and hopefully if Africa CDC coming together to drive a certain regional proposal. How do we get the countries to come on board based on the multi-country proposals that you've just put in place? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mary. Let me request that we stop with the questions at this point, because we received a lot of questions in the chat box, and we want to be fair with colleagues who have posted their questions on the chat box. So, Dr. Salam, do you want to start with the important questions from Dr. Ning? I think Dr. Richard made contributions, Dr. Ning and Dr. Foti. I will take the one from Dr. Mary.
Thank you very much. I think we have several questions, but they are very similar. And I wanted to go through the process from single country proposal, multi-country proposal, and regional proposal. The first is that for single country proposal, to date, the GIP, which is the partnership between Africa CDC and WHO, encourage all African countries to submit proposal. There is some that are not eligible because they already had a proposal, win a proposal during the first round. So those who do not have funding during the first round should make a single country proposal. And the GIP also will support. But first, it is a proposal that is driven by government. And the government, we would advise that they do it on a multi-sectorial, using the One Health if it is the narrative that you prefer, but it has to be multi-sectorial. The health is not a problem of the Minister of Health only. It is not the problem even of two ministries. It is the problem of the whole government, and it has to be multi-sectorial. The second is WHO colleagues who are here at the country office, or whoever partner who are there, we would like people to work together. All the agencies should get together. The regional, the RC should be involved and encourage the other agency. We work together with the government and make a proposal. Now, the support of the GIP is that if there is a need for technical assistance, if there is a need for information, if there is a need for funding a little, we will be willing to support those single country proposals. The second is multi-country proposal. And having a single country proposal does not prevent you getting into a multi-country proposal. That is very important to know. And also, there is no limit in terms of multi-country proposal you can be in. So you can be in several multi-country proposals if you are a country. It has to be justified though. For example, if you have a single country proposal and be in two other multi-country proposals, it shouldn't be overlapping. You should make sure that the thematic you choose are complementary. And also, you should know that those who are reviewing the TRP will have access to all your proposals. And they're going to check if there is a coherence in where what your priority are. So the multi-country proposal, there is no limit, and it is not preventing you having a single country proposal. The other thing I wanted to talk about also for the multi-country proposal is the number of countries into a multi-country proposal. People was talking about the coordination. I just wanted to let you know again that a multi-country proposal, mostly as it is designed, is several similar country proposal. So when you want a multi-country proposal, each country will have its part of the funding and will implement its funding. Because it was originally developed together, the monitoring and evaluation will have the same indicator, the reporting will be easy to put together, and the activity will be complementary and interoperable. And the coordination aspect of the multi-country proposal is not such a big burden. In my opinion, the number of countries is not a limit. We can have many countries as long as we have justification of why we are putting them together. That is for the multi-country proposal. And the last one is the regional proposal. The regional proposal, the entity that is submitting the regional proposal is the beneficiary of the regional proposal. It is not the countries. So calling countries to ask if they are joining a regional proposal, I don't think it is necessary. It may be good to consult a country because when even you are beneficiary as a regional entity, you are doing it for the countries. So you consult them in terms of knowing what are their priority, in terms of not repeating what they already put into their single country proposal, in order to be complementary also to other entities that you are working with. So consultation makes sense, but asking to join a regional proposal, I think there's not too many things we can gain from it. So it is just what I wanted to say first, like introductory, and also to answer many questions, I hope. And Landry, if there is any other question that is not answered, I'm willing to go one after another.
Our colleagues on this call, we really want to appreciate the time you're taking to join this conversation. As mentioned earlier, this is an inflection point. In the first round of the pandemic fund, we didn't have such a coordinated approach. I think this is what is coming up from the comments I'm reading. But we really want it to be a coordinated approach which works for all the stakeholders. Mary, all the AU specialized institutions as well as the RECs, we're going to discuss the next step after this call. I think this is the first one. Definitely, there are some recommendations that will have to be acted upon. I want at this point, colleagues, there's a lot of questions on the chat box. What we are putting together as Africa CDC and WHO is a set of frequently asked questions document. And we are going to make sure that some of these questions are also reflected in the frequently asked questions document. A critical one, Dr. Salam, it's the multi-country proposal and the selection of implementing entities. We have some of the implementing entities in this call. Maybe I will have another call for that topic. It may be too premature to bring all those complex conversation for the first call. The purpose of this call was really about the grouping, the support needed, and agreeing on how do we move forward together. This is not the last call, but this is the beginning of a process that we want to be collaborative. So let me invite the slide deck to come back so that we present to you how we see the next steps, and then we have a final discussion on the next steps. The slide deck, please. Can we have the full screen, please? I'm not sure this is full screen. Can we have the full screen, please? Okay. I think the slide deck wants us to wrap up. Okay. Yeah, I think this is the discussion we just had. But how do we move forward? Next. It is clear that we need to come back again on the multi-country proposals. There are very much interest for some countries, which was not expressed earlier, to join the multi-country proposal. So that's clearly the next step that we need to have and to discuss with them. One of the next steps is also related to the grouping. It came out clearly that Group 4, where we had almost 10 or 11 countries, we may have to revisit it and make it more manageable. But for that process, what we are proposing is to make sure that at least for the 4 thematic areas that are proposed, we have prepared what is called a concept note. That concept note clearly outline what a multi-country proposal for those groupings could include for us as a narrative. Because we clearly understood that at this stage of the process, we only have 2 months before May 17. We need to, as a secretariat of the GIP, we need to start doing some of the groundwork to facilitate the multi-country proposal co-creation. Our understanding is that moving forward, we need to have an engagement with those countries according to their grouping, the 4 grouping, and then maybe additional groupings as required. That intensive engagement will have to start next week. We are going to share the outline of the roadmap of that engagement with you. That engagement, definitely we need to involve our implementing entities as they deem relevant to their interest. But definitely we need to have a much more broad engagement moving forward. For the regional entity proposal, Mary, this is the answer to your question. We will definitely have follow-up conversation with the entities that have expressed interest at submitting proposal to better calibrate their needs. Some of the institutions like IBA are very advanced. It may not be the case for other specialized institutions or RECs, but that support will be provided depending on the needs expressed by the specific RECs or specialized institution. So the next steps, the next slide, there are very much 3 points on this slide. The first one is that, and this is linked to a question that we saw on the comment here, which is how are we going to reconcile all the various views? How are we going to bring together around the table all those multi-country proposals and as well as RECs proposals in a way that speaks to each other and avoids duplication? We have a proposal of having a regional workshop in April. The date is still up for discussion, but we want it to be done before mid-April so that we can have time to finalize, reconcile, review, and do what Mohammed called having a peer review process. So that process is going to complement the multi-country and the RECs and SI specific proposal development. That process will bring together the member states that have expressed interest in multi-country proposals and not all the member states as a whole. And we hope that some of our implementing entities in this call, I mentioned, I think Gavi, Richard already clearly expressed interest, could be interested in supporting such a regional workshop. There's a concept note that we can share as part of the next step after this call with the interested implementing entities. The next slide is a thank you slide. So let me open up the last round of discussions so that we build a common understanding and common agreement on the next steps. Let me start with a show of hands, unless there are burning comments in the chat box, but a show of hands could be interesting. Okay, not yet show of hands. I can see some comments. Cameroon, le Cameroun a sollicité l'appui de Africa CDC. Dr. Barnabas, do you want to open your mic? Dr. Barnabas,
Ok, bonjour à
ouvrez le
tous,
micro.
bonsoir à tous.
Merci.
Bonsoir, Dr. Landry. Et c'était juste signaler que le Cameroun avait sollicité Africa CDC pour l'appuyer dans un proposal sur le renforcement des capacités. Et le proposal, c'était dans multi-pays. Donc, je ne sais pas si le Cameroun est présent pour mieux expliquer le besoin qu'il désire. C'est pour cela que j'ai un peu mis ça dans le chat pour voir si le Cameroun est présent. Je voyais le nom de Linda, Dr. Linda. Linda est là pour mieux expliquer. Merci à vous.
Merci, Barnabas. We can see, on peut voir Linda qui est connectée. Est-ce que Linda voudrait intervenir?
Oui, bonjour à tous.
Bonjour,
Le Cameroun est bien présent. Déjà, pour répondre à la question que Barnabas a posée dans le chat, nous n'avons malheureusement pas vu ou reçu le lien pour pouvoir répondre à l'enquête. Mais maintenant, la proposition du Cameroun ou le besoin du Cameroun, c'était de pouvoir avoir un support pour constituer avec d'autres pays de la sous-région Afrique centrale un proposal multi-pays. Et donc, ici, le défi, c'était de pouvoir avoir le support technique, surtout pour organiser la coordination par rapport à ce proposal-là.
Bien reçu, merci. Ça indique clairement une prochaine étape par rapport au groupe 4. Donc, Dr. Salam a fait la présentation. Il serait nécessaire de clarifier si le Cameroun s'ajoute et la proposition multi-pays du Cameroun, est-ce que ça nécessiterait de peut-être subdiviser le groupe 4 comme proposé par d'autres participants. Merci, Dr. Linda. We have Dr. Nawiru, please come on.
Ok, c'est Dr. Nawiru de Comores.
Vous avez la parole.
Oui, oui, je m'excuse, j'avais vraiment un problème technique dès le départ. Je n'arrivais pas à entendre les discussions. Je voyais seulement les slides défiler et les gens intervenir, mais je n'arrivais pas à voir. Ce n'est que juste vers la fin que j'ai pu avoir du son. Maintenant, moi, pour ce qui est des Comores, nous, on avait opté dans le renseignement de l'outil, on a opté pour une proposition multi-pays. Et effectivement, vous savez que dans le travail, nous avons une barrière linguistique qui est là, on est beaucoup entouré de pays anglophones. On aime travailler effectivement avec eux. Mais si dans le pool, on se retrouve aussi avec un pays francophone, ça serait encore mieux pour faciliter les échanges. C'était la première proposition que je voulais faire après toutes ces discussions. Et aussi ajouter qu'on avait aussi souhaité quand même qu'on ait un appui en assistance technique pour la suite. Et puis, on s'était aussi posé la question de la possibilité, c'est ce qu'on avait soumis, de être en même temps dans une proposition multi-pays. Mais est-ce que cela est contraire à l'idée de soumettre aussi une proposition spécifique pour le pays? Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Dr. Naouriou. On a, je pense, Dr. Salam,
Oui.
you want to come back et répondre à Dr. Naouriou, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, et aussi, je crois que pour des raisons de temps, on a dépassé le temps prévu, mais ça montre un peu l'intérêt aussi que tout le monde porte à ce sujet. Je voudrais encore encourager notre collègue du Comores de faire une proposition pays. Et le GIP, notamment Africa CDC et WHO, sont prêts à supporter pour cette proposition pays. Si vous voulez voir un point contact, dans chaque pays, bureau pays OMS, le représentant pour commencer peut vous servir de point contact, mais seulement pour le faire passer au niveau du GIP. Et le GIP va voir en fonction des moyens et des ressources disponibles quels sont les supports qu'on va vous donner. Maintenant, I think there is a lot of comment that came, and I think there is an important one I wanted really to talk with our other agency implementing entity. This work that JIP is doing does not prevent any agency to be implementing entity. If we have single country proposal, it will be done like the last time. The country will work in country and in-house to designate the implementing entity. It may be one or many. And for us, really, our objective is to have as much funding for Africa. It is not to get any implementing entity. And we encourage all the agencies to work together, and at the end, to make a consensus on who's going to be implementing entity of which project and which part of project. And also, as Landry said, this is just a beginning. We can't talk about everything. I think we need to have several platforms to discuss. We're going to have platform for each multi-country proposal. We will have also a platform for implementing entities. We may have platform also for other partners to get together and work. I would also like to tell you that there is a lot of resources that we have invested as JIP to make sure that countries are supported. For single country proposal, you're going to do it at your country. We will support if necessary. If you don't need us, it's fine. For the multi-country proposal, we know that it will be very difficult for countries that did not prepare it before to write together a proposal. That's why we have a very strong team that is working in developing those proposals on behalf of the country. They're going to be on constant contact with those countries to make sure that that's what the country wants that's going to be on those proposals. Just consider them as some handymen that are going to be working for the countries. And we think that it is necessary. We have minimum 9 experts that are working full-time on that. And in addition to those experts, there is also the JIP technical working group that are going to be working on specific countries to do the review. In addition to that also, all the agencies, we will ask you to, if you have some expert that can do the review, we would like to have their name. We would like to be in contact with them because they're going to receive a lot of proposals to do review and to make sure that Africa is getting the best out of these proposals. And also, lastly, this proposal, let's not just think about the pandemic fund, because there's a lot of possibilities outside of the pandemic fund. If they pass the pandemic fund, fine, is what we are looking for. But if they don't pass the pandemic fund, the JIP is here to stay. We're going to accompany those proposals to go through the process and have funding from elsewhere. So thank you very much, Landry. And it was just some comment I wanted to make.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Salam. I think we have gone about 9 minutes over the hour. It really shows the highest interest on this topic. I don't want to repeat what Dr. Salam already said. What I want to hear from the audience is that sense of commitment to the roadmap that we have proposed. Our member state representatives really want to assure you that from the leadership of Africa CDC and the leadership of WHO as part of this JIP, the Joint Emergency Action Plan for the continent, the vision is to provide the highest quality of technical assistance for a quality submission of proposal for round 2, with a good representation of country-specific proposals, good representation of regional entity proposals, and of course, good representation of quality multi-country proposals. And we are going to aim to work together to provide that support. Definitely, we have to bring all of us together. It's a huge task. And I can commit you that from the Secretariat of the JIP, our role is to make sure that we bring in that coordinated approach for the Common Africa approach for round 2. We're going to share the contact of focal points. I think some of you may have received it, but we are going to put that on the chat, the 3 focal points who are going to be from WHO and Africa CDC following up with your respective focal person. And all those questions that you may have after this call, you may direct them to Mohamed, Roland. Mohamed is with the WHO regional office in the northern part of the continent. Roland is part of Dr. Salam's team and was designated to also follow up on all the questions. And I'll be, on behalf of Africa CDC, also channeling all the questions that are coming towards Africa CDC. So colleagues, at this point, if there is no burning hands or burning issue, I don't see any hands, so it means that we managed to achieve the expected outcomes of this first expanded call. And we look forward to the next call. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for calling.
Thank you so much
Thank you very much.
for the support.